Mary Lee came to Australia, she won't say quite when, but it was the better part of 4 decades ago, and initially was working for Qantas. If she had stayed at Qantas, it wouldn't have taken so long to get a Qantas CEO who was Irish, but instead decided to head out and start her own business, Mary Lee Iblana Travel, which has probably done more to send people to Ireland than the British penal system did to send Irish to Australia. Mary Lee, congratulations. First of all, could you tell me what Iblana means?
Well, Iblana is a very ancient name for Ireland. Thank you. Iblana is a very ancient name for Ireland. It was named Iblana by the Greek cartographer Ptolemy, 50 AD, and he based it on information he received from the Phoenician traders, and they actually based a map, a very rather interesting map at the time, and the trade routes that he did to Ireland, and he dealt in, I think it was animal skins and silver, I think, and gold, and traded back spices there with the Iblani tribe, which apparently would have been further up the river, of course, in the Liffey's now. So someday somebody will find it somewhere up in the Wicklow Mountains, we hope.
And there's no truth in the rumour you're one of the chair of modern Irish studies here, just so people would know that, but now they do. Before getting onto that, setting up a travel agency, your own travel agency, a little bit longer ago than yesterday, probably the first travel agency owned by a woman in this country, certainly in Sydney.
Well, actually it was. I was the first, well, I didn't realise that until I was the first registered travel agency owning her own business in Sydney. But it was a funny quirk of fate, I suppose, that I ended up here in this wonderful country, which I love with all my heart. I also love Ireland, but it was, my husband was, my late husband was, I suppose, shall I continue?
A bit of shush up the back, please, in the cheap seats. Thank you.
My late husband was doing a thesis in economics at UCD, and he decided, well, he wasn't my husband then, but he subsequently became my husband, he decided that the best place to go was Australia. So I said, well, why not? Let's go and have a look at it anyway. And we didn't come as 10-pounders, as you appreciate. We didn't belong to that league. But when I arrived in Australia, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with Sydney. It was like visiting your second or third cousins. They all seemed to, you felt you had known them from another land. You know, it was such a wonderful, hospitable country. And I thought, well, I've got to live here. So I walked into Qantas, and I thought, well, they're the national carrier. And I thought, if I can get working in the airlines, I had a few other areas up my sleeve, of course, that I could have turned to. I thought if I can work with the airlines, I can always visit Ireland and have my home in Australia. So I had the cheek of, you know what, and I went into Qantas, and 10 days later I was employed in sales reservations. And this is where I really learned my trade. And 3 years later I started the Irish Travel Agency, because I could see there was nobody specialising in that field. Actually, they thought that Ireland and England, you could go by train from London to Dublin without having to cross any water, and that kind. It wasn't ignorance, it was just lack of knowledge, I suppose.
Well, the second last question for me is, that travel agency was in some ways the unofficial Irish embassy in Sydney for a long time. A lot of people who did run into trouble in Australia really turned to you before there was a consulate. How hard was that?
Oh, it was delightful. The more clients I got, the better. And of course, Australians loved it once they got there. And then we started this tracing their ancestors, which is absolutely tremendous. And of course, I got so much support from the Irish Tourist Board. But funny, when you asked me when I first came to Australia, like what I, thought of it, but it was a quirky sort of place, because I was aware that don't get me wrong, I'm not a feminist, I love the men, but this is a little bit, that the first country in the world to grant the vote to women was Australia. But yet, a woman had to have her husband's permission to get a passport. Well, that to me was kind of a contradiction of terms, you know.
Final question. Your business story itself is a fantastic success. The drive you put into establishing and having established the chair of Modern Irish Studies is amazing. What do you regard as your greatest achievement here?
My greatest achievement, I suppose, is everybody has a goal in life. And I just wanted to see the world, meet people. I was reared in a family of 5 brothers and 1 sister, so there were 7 of us. And there was never any distinction between sex there, maybe brawn over brains, but we all competed against one another. I mean, I could ride a horse bareback as good as they could, but I wasn't able to kick football like them. But that competition was there, and we never were given the impression that women were apart or inferior to men. We just had to play our own game and get there. But it's, my achievement would have to say that coming to Australia and looking at Australia, what it is now, all the wonderful Irish people that came out then, and the people who are here in this room today, they were top of their skills. They came out here, and they're still coming, thank God. I know it's sad to see them leave Ireland, but the Irish came here. They are achievers. They're upwardly mobile people, and they don't have their hand out for the dole. They didn't come here to live off the country. They came here to support it and progress and to make it their own. And I love both countries. I love it, being in love with Ireland and Australia.
Mary Lee, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.